As we watch our world descend into chaos, do we have anything to say? In the context of today's trials and tomorrow's disappointments, can we have any confidence? In the midst of suffering and great difficulty, is there anywhere we can look for real joy? Well, good morning. You've joined Lansdowne Church, and as we look at Psalm 47 this morning, we have an amazing and a confident yes to each one of those questions. It's a song that looks out into the world of mighty powers and warring nations from the perspective of a tiny nation, and yet is brimming with confidence. Can you imagine perhaps a tiny group of people, I don't know, 11, looking out into thousands, and yet doing so with overwhelming confidence? Well, listen to this. The psalm begins, "For the director of music of the sons of Korah, a psalm. Clap your hands, all you nations. Shout to God with cries of joy." So here's the writer of the song encouraging the tiny nation of Israel to look out on the nations of the world and call them to rise up, to clap, to roar, to shout to God with cries of joy, to their God. How so? Well, the very next verse, "For the Lord Most High is awesome, the great King over all the earth." The Lord is Most High. He is awesome, worthy of fear. And He is the great King over all of them. What confidence is theirs? They know this because of their experience of His victory on their behalf. Verse 3 continues, "He subdued nations under us, peoples under our feet. He chose our inheritance for us, the pride of Jacob, whom He loved." They won, you see. Though the land that God had promised them was filled with mighty, scary warrior nations, God had taken them in, had given them the land, and established victory for them. Remember that group of 11? I wonder if the perspective is slightly different if we now clothe them in football kit and put them in the final, having just won. At that moment, doesn't that group of 11 look out into the crowds of thousands upon thousands and call on them to be on their feet, to be shouting, to be praising? And what are they doing? Thousands out of their seats, full of joy and rapturous applause. That is what is being called on here for the whole world. When Jesus had won the victory, what did He say in Matthew 28? "All authority in heaven and earth has now been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations." He was fulfilling a very specific promise from Daniel 7, where one like a son of man would come before the Ancient of Days, and He would be given all authority in heaven and earth. And peoples and nations and tribes and languages would come and worship Him. And so Jesus is sending them, He's sending us out to call the nations to worship Him. Why? Because He is the victorious King. He has died, conquered death and risen. And now ascended, He is seated at the Father's right hand. That was pictured, of course, in the days of Israel when God in the ark and the tabernacle was taken into Jerusalem and put on Mount Zion. God has ascended amid shouts of joy, the Lord amid the sounding of trumpets. God's ascended. And so we now with them can call the world to praise Him, sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. Why? For God is the King of all the earth. Sing to Him a psalm of praise. So as we look out on the world today, what do we see? God reigns over the nations. God is seated on his holy throne today. The nobles of the nations assemble as the people of the God of Abraham, for the kings of the earth belong to God. He is greatly exalted. Put on this pair of glasses, and as you look at the world, what do you see? As you acknowledge that Jesus Christ died, rose, ascended, and is seated, reigning today, what do you see? You see him as king over all the troubles and strife. You see him as king over all the injustice. You see him as king over every power and authority, over even the powers of darkness. And as we see that, we can praise him. And with confidence, we can call on this world to join us in this song of joy.